Hello, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is an ancient spiritual practice from India. It means being in reality together. I give Satsang live every Wednesday and Sunday night in Portland, Maine. This Dharma talk was recorded during one of our Wednesday night gatherings. Please visit jayakula.org to learn more about the teachings. You can find video satsangs on Jayakula's YouTube channel, and my books are all available on Amazon.com. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. Prostrations are what are called pranams in the tradition. Could be anything from just going like this, or kneeling and doing it like people do at the end of teachings here, or it could mean doing full body prostrations where you're lying flat on the ground with your head face down. This is done to a teacher or to even a statue sometimes. And then in India and Tibet, prostrations are done as what's called tapas. So tapas means heat, and it's specifically the heat of burning karma. And so sometimes you'll be on the road in India somewhere near some pilgrimage site, and you'll see somebody with rags wrapped around their knees and their elbows, actually pranaming up a road or around a site of some sort. And of course, the most famous prostration site probably in all of Tibet and India is Mount Kailash. So Mount Kailash is in eastern Tibet, and there's a pilgrimage route that built around the base of the mountain. The Buddhists go in one direction and the Hindus go in the other, apparently. I don't know which direction is which, though. I've never been there. A lot of people just walk around the base of the mountain, but then the real traditional thing to do is to pranam all the way around the base of the mountain, and it takes days to do this. So it's really quite a practice. There was a yogini that I knew who was Tibetan, but she was a refugee and she was living in Oregon, and she had prostrated around Mount Kailash 100 and some times. Yeah, not in one go, but that's pretty hardcore. Anyway, Ma had a lot to say about pranaming, and I'm bringing this up because it kind of speaks to the heart of what we're doing when we are offering that kind of surrender or gesture of surrender to our teachers or just to wisdom itself. Sometimes people will I'll look at somebody and they'll look down, or I'll pass somebody and I'll look at them and they'll look down. And the truth of the matter is that if you look down when your teacher looks at you, you're going to try to make someone else look down when you feel you're better than them. The thing is, the only way that you can really look at your teacher is recognizing that your teacher and you have equality. So if you're still in that mode where you do some sort of subservient thing and look down like this when your teacher looks at you, then that means you're also looking for someone to look down at you. Do you understand what I'm saying? You've got a pecking order established. And you may think that you're being humble to your teacher, but then somebody else comes along that you feel you're better than, and you'll want to lord it over that other person. In the matter of relating to the teacher, there is no such thing as looking down with that kind of pecking order gesture. Right? That is not a proper way to relate to a teacher. And it's funny to say that because, of course, when we do prostration, we actually put our head at the feet of the teacher. So you might say, well, that's looking down, that's subservient, but it's not subservient at all. It's a gesture of surrender so that you can discover who you are, discover your own self. And Anandamayi Ma taught about it on many different occasions. What is the real meaning of prostration? And I want to read you a little bit of what she says and then also practice what she says. So this, of course, is a translation or a transcription and translation of one of Ma's satsangs. The questioner asked, "What is the right way of doing pranama?" Ma says, "When doing pranama to a deity or living person or Mahatma, first have darshana of his whole figure." That means look at the whole person. Isn't that interesting? Scary. Start with the feet. So someone's standing before you, and then she says, start with the feet. Let your eyes wander right up to the head while inhaling, slowly. Imagine that together with the breath you're absorbing power into yourself from the person to whom you are bowing. Then yet let your gaze descend slowly again while exhaling. At the same time, offer yourself to God with all that is in you, good and bad. Try to pour yourself out completely without reserve. When your head touches the feet of the deity or saint, then that power enters you. Now this is kind of an interesting thing, and I'm going to explain this in a little while. To do pranama means to dedicate yourself to God with all that constitutes one's nature at the time, be it desirable or undesirable, one's virtues, vices, capacities, shortcomings, everything. Now, a lot of the time in this country, and even in India, when people do pranam, they're doing it to demonstrate something about themselves. You know, they want to demonstrate how devoted you are, or how special and holy you are in some way. It's like a performative gesture. It's not really a gesture of showing up exactly as you are and putting yourself at the feet of wisdom. So Ma's saying that the real pranam is when you don't leave anything out. You're not showing off. You're just being your whole self and showing up for the darshan of that form of wisdom. And this is the main point. Show up with everything, one's virtues, vices, capacities, shortcomings. Offer your whole being at the feet of your teacher or whatever form of wisdom it is. Then receive oneself back. She says this happens by a touch because very often she's talking about a situation where someone pranams at the feet, an individual at the feet of a teacher, and then the teacher puts their hand on your head. And she says, what you're receiving, when she's talking about receiving power, you're receiving oneself back. In other words, some greater embodiment or understanding of your real nature. So the power that is being so-called transferred is not something you lack, it's the opportunity to self-recognize, to see that you have total equality with the teacher, that you are both made of the same divine consciousness and energy. There's no subservience. There is surrender, but there's no subservience. Surrender comes both in showing up totally as you are, and without showing off or doing anything other than for the sake of recognizing yourself, and to be really open in that situation so that you can have that experience of transmission. Then another pith, essence of it all. Pranama is done to God alone, never to a person, and therefore can be done anywhere at all, for God is all-pervading. If you're thinking, oh, my teacher is so great, or I want my teacher to love me, or I want other people to see me doing this, or this is what I think I'm supposed to do, but I have no idea why I'm doing it. All that is totally besides the point. Anybody that you're pranaming to, you are having the feeling, the orientation that that person is God, is wisdom itself. And that you could pranam to a chair leg too. Right? If you had enough understanding, if you had enough enlightenment, you could pranam to anything. And as a matter of fact, Ma says somewhere else that she went through a period of time where she just pranamed to everything and anyone. It was all the same to her who she pranamed to. Now, for most of us, we can't receive transmission from a chair leg because you're just not in that condition yet. So it's easier for you to have that experience when you're pranaming to a person. That's why we do it. But don't feel like you're just relating to some ordinary person who's in your condition, right? Or that it's something individualized. It's like that person is a conduit for you. To do pranama means to pour yourself out at God's feet, to become closely bound to God and united with God. Again, this is another way of saying that you're being in the state of unison. You're having an opportunity to experience that. That's why you're doing it. Ma says you're bowing to the Supreme Being alone. Pranama must always be done with that attitude. To do pranama means to put one's head where it should be at the feet of God. His lotus feet are everywhere, and therefore one may do obeisance everywhere. Remembering the feet of the Lord. To do pranama means to open oneself to the divine power that is always streaming down on everyone. It's just that you need these special circumstances to help you to feel it. Dedicate yourself to God without holding anything back, with all you possess, your virtues as well as your shortcomings and faults. While doing pranama, you receive that divine transmission into yourself. She doesn't say that, she says power, but that's what she means. With the intaking of breath and then exhaling, one should feel that one is breathing out everything, all your karmas, and remain without breathing. You've exhaled and you stop breathing. So that's what she's talking about. And then she says, when doing obeisance to a living person, one should always look at the object of one's reverence first. So none of this sheep-like stuff. Right. No sheeples here. So when doing obeisance to a living person, one should always look at the object of one's reverence first, so as to receive the adhikara to do pranam. Adhikara is a word that means capacity. And so if you have the darshan of the person that you're relating to first, you are receiving transmission first, you are in the state of your practice first, you've swept your eyes up and then you've taken a moment to look at that person and you're inhaling, and then through that gaze you receive the capacity to do pranam the right way. Not stuck in your games the karmic mind games that you play. And then you exhale and then you do the pranam. And then at the bottom of the exhale, when you're down there, you're just having a moment when you're not breathing at all. And then you can start breathing again. Does everybody understand this method of Ma's? Jayakula is a nonprofit community offering opportunities to learn and practice in the direct realization traditions of Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen. We are based in Portland, Maine and Portland, Oregon. Visit jayakula.org to explore more of our offerings.